Remember them 7 C's I was talking about that were parted? We got all 7 of them.
Trouble, turn 6.
Oh, God. What the fuck? Welcome to the Big Motor Small Blade podcast. I'm Buddy Pulley.
And I'm Seth Dolby.
And we are back from Chicago. We did not drown. We did not get waterboarded.
Are you sure about that?
Okay, we may have gotten waterboarded. But we are alive to see Shane Van Gisbergen, if that's so hard to say for some people, win his one and only cup start so far. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about everything Chicago, our experience, the fan experience for everyone else, the logistics, all the bells and whistles and French fries and Frosties from this weekend. And then we'll talk about, basically all I just said. So, let's just start.
Yeah, that whole waterboarding comment, I don't know if that's accurate. We definitely.
I've never been waterboarded, so I don't know.
Well, okay, so I grew up being friends with Ryan, not Ryan Poop Pants, a different Ryan. And
Ryan Blaney?
No, not that Ryan Poop Pants. And so I have been waterboarded before.
Holy shit! What the fuck?
We grew up weird. Yeah.
You need to talk?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, I just gotta. Okay. Anyway, all right. So, before we get to Chicago, you went to Caraway.
I did.
This weekend.
Feels like a millennia ago at this point.
Is that because we were in Millennium Park?
No. No, it's because it was a week ago.
Okay.
And my sense of time is poor.
Yeah. So you went to go see old Kyle run. He didn't fare too well. He did better than the KHI car. Lane Riggs got DQ'd. There's a lot of DQ. Carson Quapple got DQ'd the other day.
Did he?
Yeah.
Man, they're strict over there.
Yeah, I think it's almost too strict. I think.
I mean, I don't know. I think the problem is when you get into the lower ranks is discouraging people from spending too much money.
That, and I think you're not getting consistent officials there too. So it comes down to a point of view, and I don't know. I don't think it's a good look for short track racing because it seems like every other week someone's getting DQ'd from somewhere, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
it seems like it happens at Snowball Derby every year.
That's true. I don't know, just don't push as much. I don't know what to say.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
But what does Takuma Sato say? No attack, no chance.
Yeah.
I don't know that applies, but I'm gonna
or just get sneakier about it.
Yeah.
Do the old Chad Knaus or something.
How was Caraway?
As a facility, it was pretty good. It was fairly comfortable. My severe lack of ass is becoming a problem as far as aluminum bleachers go. I need to do more squats or something. But yeah, I mean, they had that new grandstand up in turn 1, and it was really nice. You could see the whole. You could see really well. You got a really good idea of the banking on the front stretch, which was pretty cool. I mean, it was very banked, more than I anticipated. The track was fun to watch at least. Definitely a lot of tire fall off, which made me realize that Kyle Larson was going to have trouble before it even started. But
yes.
I had fun.
2-time Wilkesboro winner, Kyle Larson.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Kyle's an enigma when it comes to tire wear tracks.
Yeah.
So he either runs like he normally does, or he goes out and Wilkesboro's the field. So I don't know anymore with Kyle.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I watched a little bit of that race, but I don't pay for Flow, so I I only saw a little bit of it, but I mean, it looked fun. Caraway seems like a cool track. Seems like there's a lot of hype around it. Jeremy Mayfield was in the race for like a minute and a half.
Yeah, for a whole 13 laps. He was running so slow. I hope so. I assume something was broke, but I don't know how it happened. But the highlight of the night, not the highlight, but the funny highlight of the night was the Legends car race, which got cut short.
We're buying a Legend car, aren't we?
At some point. By we, you mean me.
Yeah.
At some point, I would love to because they look like a whole lot of fun. But yeah, we did not complete a 25-lap feature because everybody wrecked all the time, and it was kind of hysterical. Some kid knocked the wall down so hard in turn 4 that he ripped the right rear off of it, I think.
Didn't that like scare the hell out of some kid you were sitting next to?
Yeah, so there was a kid behind me. They were talking about. So I learned because he was talking to his dad and whoever that he was 10 years old, and someone was like, "Oh, that's about how old Keelan Harvick is," and kid was like, "What? I want to get one of those right now," not realizing that it's expensive. And then that kid knocked the wheel off the car, and he was like, "Okay, maybe not. I think I might be okay."
Damn. All right. And with that, we'll go on to Chicago.
That kid did not have that dog in him, apparently.
No. Who did have that dog in him? Shane Van Gisbergen had that Taz in him, bro.
Yeah.
Had that Tasmanian devil deep inside him, and he let it out on the whole fucking field. The concept of bringing the race cars to the people is working pretty well. It worked in LA, despite what most people think, and it largely, for the most part, worked in Chicago, despite torrential downpours and Lightning McQueen wreaking havoc on the whole city. I don't know, man. It just seems like to me the whole city knew we were here, and in a positive way. And it seemed like there was a lot of advertisement and and it was because of that everyone knew we were there. It's because we promoted the damn race.
Yeah.
And wild concept, I know. If we promote the race, people will know we're there and want to be interested. But it was, I don't know. It just seemed like that worked.
The whole thing was set up incredibly well. It taking place at Grant Park was fantastic. The stage area was set up really well when it wasn't flooded, which wasn't anything anyone planning could have done about that. I still think they probably should have tried to get the Miranda Lambert concert in. Maybe it's just because they didn't want to destroy that field, I imagine. But probably still should have tried. But that's on, a lot of that was on Chicago, and I understand it to some extent. I'm not even trying to really rip on Chicago. I don't think anything they did.
Let's talk about it. Let's get the negative out of the way first.
Okay.
Obviously, Lightning on Saturday, everything was going great. Everything was going swimmingly. Like, we got there, and we just kept saying, "Holy shit, this is amazing!" What they did. Because everything went so smooth. You had to go through security, but you didn't have to have a ticket, and you could go right up to the fence and look at the open air garage they had, and watch the guys work on the cup cars. They had a midway set up for fans that didn't have tickets. That was really cool. And then once you got into the track, obviously you had Buckingham Fountain, just lots of great scenery. And then you got down the track, and I know this was a worry for you for sure, but you could see a lot more of the track than we thought.
Yeah.
And you talk to people, and it's like everyone you talk to, hardly any of them had been to a race before, and all of them were having a fucking blast.
Yeah.
and it really sucks because obviously the Xfinity race starts, lightning delay happens, and that kind of just takes the wind out of the sails for the entire what ended up being the entire weekend up until the Cup race started, but definitely for the rest of that day.
Yeah, and I mean, you and I brought a bunch of people to the racetrack for their first time, just in the past couple of years. Genuinely, so if you go to races all the time, you've never brought a new fan, do it. Like, do whatever you have to do to get it done. Kidnap somebody. I'm kidding.
Be a good race fan.
Be a good race fan, dude. Genuinely, there's nothing like it. The first time someone sees them go around the track at in full anger, it's crazy. Like, their face lights up most of the time. Like,
that's
everyone
all my
I've
mom
seen
kept talking about was the smile on people's faces.
Yeah, I mean, you look over and someone's like, "Oh my God, that was insane," and all they saw was a car go by, which to me is like normal.
You're numb to it.
Yeah, I mean, so Sunday when Kyle Busch slid into the tire barrier on lap 3, I heard a few people over us go, or someone I heard next to us said, "Oh, that was scary. That was an actual car accident right in front of us." And I was just like, I hadn't even thought about it that way.
Dude, you don't think about it. I feel like we kind of take things for granted too, like going to the racetrack and how really amazing it is, the things that are going on around us. But it makes you appreciate when things are truly done right. And I think that's the opinion that a lot of people shared, and I know we did on Saturday, was they did this right. I was above and beyond what I thought it was going to be like. But then the lightning delay happens, and we had what did I call her? Hold on. Park Ranger Karen. That's who I called her. This lady running around basically as soon as the lightning delay started. Like, they just come down pit road, and she was like, "Race is canceled, go home." Everybody trying to just usher people out of there. And, apparently that was kind of going on throughout the entire facility, which was unfortunate. And obviously everyone's heard the rumors of, not rumors, but the opinion of the mayor and some people there that didn't want the race there. And it was a shame because they were, obviously it ended up happening. The race did end up getting postponed until the next day and then ultimately canceled. But it was just unfortunate to have just a couple people kind of ruin a lot of people's fun time that they were having.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I get the policy, I understand, but it's kind of absurd, really, when you think about it. There are so many majorly tall buildings in that area that the possibility of lightning striking people is incredibly low. And I understand needing to stop the race, obviously, but I don't fully understand the need to completely evacuate and the policy of not allowing anything to happen until the threat of lightning is extinguished. I've never heard of that. I don't know if that's a thing in most cities. I've never heard of it. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like they caught it a little bit early. But and I don't think that's not on NASCAR. I think it's largely the city. And why that is, I don't know. But it is what it is. There are a lot of people I felt bad, obviously people that wanted to see the Chainsmokers and some of the other concerts. It sucks because some of them only came for that. But also I kind of look at it like this. Any concert is going to get canceled because of lightning. I've experienced that before. So, I mean, it's kind of just one of those things. And then we get to Sunday. And NASCAR tried their damnedest to get that Xfinity race in. They were trying. They had drivers in their cars. Drivers sitting in the cars for a while, and it was just a fucking monsoon, dude. Like, I mean, they ended up delaying. There was lightning. They ended up delaying the gates opening. It was just, it was God. It was just that was the only part of the weekend that I looked at. I was like, that was kind of a fucking shit show. Because it's like they're just the whole really the whole weather delay situation was really frustrating because you didn't, unless you had Twitter, which some people are at there, had the brake limit thing happening to them. You couldn't. There was not a whole lot of communication from anyone at the actual track to tell us what to do. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna give NASCAR any shit for anything that happened, I think communication is really the only one you can give them. Because I mean, we were just sitting out there in the pouring rain for hours on end and had basically no updates. Yeah, we were just sitting there assuming we're not running, but not gonna leave because we might.
Yeah.
Obviously we ended up running, so I'm glad we stayed, but it's like,
well, yeah, I just meant, but I mean, the Xfinity race, it felt like there was a very valiant effort put in at first, and then it seems like they kind of just gave up. And then obviously they cut the race short. We didn't get to halfway. And honestly, it's kind of fucking unacceptable. Like, I mean, I would have taken them running 2 pace laps and calling it. That's fine. But except in rare instances, that's fine. I get it. You built in that clause. But also, like, for the love of God, dude, like, literally just have some sort of integrity with the rules that you harp on and that we go through every week, because you're opening Pandora's box if you do this. I mean, it could happen, is it going to happen anywhere else? No. There's unforeseen circumstances with the city and the challenges of not knowing if we're going to be able to come back Monday and run the Xfinity race. But damn, dude, I mean, just you got to I don't know. The moment you start bending your rules for any event is the moment you start bending the rules for every event. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
Hell, run the damn thing. Run the completion of it at the fucking Roval. I don't care. Like, just get. I mean, whatever you got to do. Run 2 laps under caution. Do whatever you got to do to get to halfway. You were 2 laps away. Granted, it would have been the same outcome, but at least you say, okay, we're sticking to our guns, sticking to our rules, and this race is official.
I'll be honest. I think my issue with it is completely opposite of yours. My issue is from the competitive side is a bunch of guys didn't a few guys come down and pit right after the caution came out?
I don't know.
I think they did. So my issue is you pit there because it's not official yet. And if I'm wrong, then I apologize, but I'm pretty sure that happened. And you pit there because the race is not official. And then you wait around, you spend a bunch of money staying there the extra night, and you come back and are told, oh yeah, never mind, the race is over. I don't like that. I feel like if you're going to do that, you kind of need to put the running order back the way it was. That's just me. Again, That's not in the rule book either, but we've already bent the rules. So that's the part I don't like. I don't like them awarding a playoff point for stage 2. I'm kind of fine with them cutting the race short because I genuinely don't know if there was a better option. Like, I don't think running the extra 2 laps under yellow makes a difference to me at least, especially with how much standing water was there. You could have tore up some equipment for literally nothing.
Well,
And
they had to drive the cars back to the garage anyway.
that's true. That's true. But
when you finally make that decision,
yeah,
it was that was the lightest rain we saw until the Cup race started. Just roll them around under caution for 2 laps. Do what you got to, because at the end of the day, we could have gotten the whole thing in. We could have at least made an attempt to restart the Xfinity race at some point. And they tried for a while, but I don't know. Maybe I'm barking up. Maybe I'm just an old man yelling at the sky. But
yeah,
even to get cars on track and to show people race cars. For that,
I mean, technically they did that since they had to drive him back to the garage. Technically,
I guess.
I mean, that's a big technicality, but I don't know. I don't feel as strongly about this because it wasn't really their fault. Like, the lightning clock was basically expiring when they canceled it for the Saturday.
Yeah.
And then at that point, they kind of probably felt like, especially since we saw how long it took the Xfinity teams to break down, since they had to carry their stuff all the way down, whatever that road is, down turn 1 to turn 2. So that whole process took a long time, and we were still hoping to get the Cup race in at the scheduled start time at that point. So I kind of get it. And at that point, coming back Monday was not going to be financially viable for the teams. So I totally understand.
It was not an option. Like, it was an option, but it really was not an option.
It was not much of an option.
Yeah.
So I ultimately, I don't love it, but I understand.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately it's not that big of a deal, but it's not that big of a deal if this is the only time it happens. But if it starts becoming not rare instances, then it's going to be a problem. With that being said, eventually we did get to the Cup race. That was the most miserable I've ever been at a racetrack. Yeah. Waiting and waiting and the physical aspect of it, because we were cold and we were wet. We were a bunch of wet dogs in Alaska in December out there, and just stressed and like worried that we're not going to get this race in. And it's like, we had a flight on Monday, so it's like we probably couldn't stay. That's a lie. We definitely would have figured out a way to stay.
We'd have tried.
It would have been, yeah. God, that was miserable.
Yeah, agreed. I was regretting every decision that led me to that moment. It's like, because I could tell. Yeah, I was on the fence about going to Chicago up until about 2 weeks beforehand. And that entire week, for whatever reason, I was just like, do I really want to do it? I don't even know why. I know why. I
don't know why either.
Well, I had just worries about getting there and it not being like, and not being able to see basically anything, and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, you read Reddit too much.
I did read Reddit too much. Yeah, that's totally on me. But anyway, I had a lot of fun on Saturday until it happened, and then I'm sitting there in the pouring rain. We get the best seat, the best spot in GA minimum. Yeah. It might be the best spot in the house. I don't know, and then the possibility just keeps going and going and going of not being able to see the race at all. And I'm like, this sucks. This is lame.
Dude, it went from Saturday just being the highest of highs, literally one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life, to just heartbreak for ourselves, for everyone involved, for NASCAR. I mean, NASCAR has the worst luck when it comes to shit like this. And it was so devastating waiting there. and waiting and waiting. And it I mean, obviously we heard it was like, 15 minutes, if they wouldn't have been able to get going 15 minutes later, they would have caught it. So that was tough, but we did see it. It did happen. And it was the most watched NASCAR race in the past 6 years. It was the best road race with the next gen car. And like, we didn't overcomplicate the track design, which I think both of us were critics of the design of the track. And I think it actually played into the racing product's hands, not overcomplicating the racetrack and keeping it relatively simple, because you didn't need to. You had like every aspect you could want. You had, changes in surfaces. You had elevation changes. You had all of the things that give character to a racetrack and produce, good racing. And God bless, they were wheeling it, dude. I mean, that was one of the best displays of drivers at work I've seen in years, if maybe ever. Like, I don't know. Like this, it's like the Darlington of road courses is what I'm calling this. I mean, is it not?
Yeah.
If you look at that driving that they had to do, where else do you see that?
Yeah. Darlington. Yeah. I have never been more happy to be wrong about something in my life. Because, like you said, a lot of people.
I said last week this race was going to suck.
Yeah, no, we said. I remember I said for sure. I said I'm really glad I'm going because I want to know if the event is a success, despite the race, and not have to find out via Twitter. And turns out the event was only a success because of the race and how great it was. Not through anybody's fault, but just circumstances. It was only a success because of how great the race was. And the track wound up being a great design. I mean, you had, 5 major passing zones or something? Yep. 5 major passing zones. The track was way wide enough. I was definitely concerned about that, but we get there and, it's wide. It's really wide.
Plenty fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And it did not turn into a shit show. And there are a couple good reasons for that we will talk about here in a minute.
Single file fucking restarts. Talk about it right now.
Yeah, we will.
We ran a proper road race for the first time in NASCAR history, it seems like. Or at least recent history.
Yeah, at least recent history,
had a restart zone that played in the hands of racing product and, legitimacy and integrity of a motor race. Yep. We had local yellows and we had single file restarts. Guys had to focus on racing the racetrack instead of like just crashing into each other. They had to focus on catching fast guys like Shane Van Gisbergen and, just driving the cars.
Yeah.
They didn't worry about, running over the guy in front of them to gain a spot because they know they're going to get another green, white checkered or whatever.
Yeah. I was sitting there basically for a long time sitting there going, are we going to double file restart soon? Like the question I was asking was, oh God, when is this race going to turn into a shit show? And they just never switched, and it greatly helped the racing product. And
it did.
And I can't stand going on Twitter and seeing, I want double file restarts.
I didn't see that. I saw a lot of people saying they're glad there.
I still see a lot of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I never thought in a million years we'd go to Chicago for this street race and be saying we should use this as an example of how to run a race.
Yeah.
Any race.
Yeah.
In NASCAR. I mean, especially road racing. Because we ran it like a legitimate motor race that series around the world use to make sure they don't make the racing turn into a fucking clown show. And it proved it because this is one of the best, if not the best race of the year.
Yeah, I mean, the restart zone was phenomenal. And I mean, even then with we ran in the Cup Series, we ran single file restarts, but in the Xfinity race, not that it got to a point where guys would go insane. But they were running double file restarts there on the I think three starts we did, and the restart zone being where it was helped control that too.
It did.
Even with the
Yeah.
double file restarts, I don't think we need them, but it still made a difference. Now, could it have gotten? Now, Xfinity guys usually have a bit of a head on their shoulders compared to Cup guys for some reason at the end of a road course race, but I would have liked to see that play out just to see where it would have stacked up, just to have a comparison. But yeah, I think we can use this as the mold going forward. There's no reason we can't.
And it kind of gave us restart zone and the way we did things. Just it gave us options. Like we could do double file restarts if we fixed the restart zone, or we proved that single file restarts can work or do work, which they never didn't. But everything went swimmingly as far as that goes. And going back to like the track design, it really just the overall event and how everything was going before obviously the weather. Julie Geezy, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, had way more trouble pronouncing her last name than Shane Van Gisbergen. She's like the Marcus Smith for like NASCAR racetracks. Like, I mean, she spearheaded the Daytona Rising thing, the Talladega renovation, Richmond, Phoenix, LA, like all these things. Ben Kennedy, obviously, a big part of it. We saw Ben just walking around amongst the common folk. And just like this event gave off Wilkesboro vibes for me, as far as like the community, the people around it were just happy to be there. And I think that's something that, kind of gets lost or taken for granted at a lot of racetracks.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I want to ask, you've been at the three biggest, I would say, events of the year that aren't Daytona. So two of the ones especially where, so realistically, I want to compare like the Coliseum and this, and then I kind of want to throw Wilkesboro in there, but it's not the same. Everyone pretty much at Wilkesboro was already like diehard.
Yeah.
So I'm more curious about maybe the difference between like LA and this.
So LA and Chicago, very similar experiences. And I think you can go back and listen to our LA episode. And I said that's one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had at a racetrack. And I think I share the same feelings about this. One, just the amount of new fans that, were there for the first time and enjoying the sport. And I think people get caught up in what they enjoy. Like some people want to say, oh, well, some people were just there for the concert. Some people were just there for this, just there for that. And it's like, they're at a racetrack. Like, yeah, they might only be there for a certain reason, but we're going to retain at least a chunk of those people. And that's growing the sport because they're going to tell their friends, just like we do all the time. They're going to tell their friends and bring their friends, and they're going to come to the racetrack and want to come back. And it's just going to grow the sport. And I think these are LA and Chicago are two examples of how to build the sport and how to target the demographic that we've been chasing. And we've tried it through all different avenues between the playoffs and the stages and whatnot, trying to attract these new fans and different, things we've done in marketing and things like that. And all it took was bring the racetrack to the people and put on a good show. Wild concept, I know. But I think if you put those together, you build a fan base that goes to Wilkesboro and has a blast and is that new diehard fan. So or building a generation that will get behind something like Wilkesboro. I'll put it like that, if that makes any sense. Now, comparing Chicago to Wilkesboro, they were very similar in the fact that, one, they're obviously both inaugural events. I wasn't at LA last year, but it just seemed like everyone there was just happy to be there. Not that LA didn't, but I didn't experience that as much, I guess. Well, no, I can't even say that because I was amongst different groups of people in LA. I was working that event. So LA and Wilkesboro, it just seemed it gave off community vibes. I think you saw a large group of people that were in Chicago were from Chicago. Large group of people that went to Wilkesboro were from Wilkesboro. So I think, and you saw that there was a big community push behind it. Whereas LA, I feel like you saw the typical race fans from all around, and then you did see, a lot of people from LA. But Wilkesboro and Chicago, they had this in common. If you were in the vicinity of the racetrack or the city that the track was in, you knew it was there. You 100% knew it was there, and that's the important thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just curious because if we're making this big push, and it seems to be working.
Yeah.
It really opens up what we do with it, because like we had
100%.
said when we talked about LA, I remember we were talking about moving it around, or if we needed to, and that's the one thing. So obviously either way, eventually this is going to get moved around somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm curious if the plan also is to move around LA. I understand the Coliseum itself is a big draw to it, but again, if the goal is to bring the racetrack to the people, then eventually you're going to have to move that one too. There's plenty of stadiums we could do this in.
I think the key is you have to do it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
Because you have to build that fan base in that city and for that race. And you have to build it up enough to where they're willing to go to other races. And if you don't do that, then you take their race away and they don't go to other races. And then, they were like, okay, yeah, we did this for a couple of years, but we're not going to go chase it. Whereas you got to build that. You got to build that fan base in that city in order to get them to branch out.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. I don't think we need to change the street course every year. I don't think we need more than one. Let's be clear. This is an amazing race. We don't need to oversaturate it.
Yeah.
One street race a year. Let's look forward to it. Let's make it a big event. I think this has the vibe around it, and the vibe around the drivers and the teams and the sponsorship activation. It gave off Daytona 500 vibes, in my opinion, and that's a huge deal. So
I think a big thing this shows too is that this is probably the most, I guess, European race that I think we've put on in a long, long time. And that seems to be getting a big, in just in general in the United States, that seems to be getting a lot of people excited. Just that idea. F1's big in America right now, Drive to Survive, but still, F1's pretty big. The World Cup every time it comes around gets bigger. That's overseas primarily. I think we can definitely look at that kind of model for doing sporting events and maybe try and replicate it a little more. Maybe this shows we don't need as many of these gimmicks. We don't need to stop the race twice in the middle of it. We don't necessarily need to reset the points 5 times a season. Just a thought. I mean, it seems to be working.
Yeah, and you bring up European, and I didn't think about this until now, but do you think NASCAR strategically planned this Garage 56 thing around the fact that it would be just a month or so before Chicago? And it would bring those more eyes to NASCAR right around the time that we're going to end up doing something that's more similar to what they're used to. And
maybe
I don't know. Maybe it could just be a coincidence, but I like to think it's not. And I'm glad that it happened like it did because I think it worked.
Yeah.
I guess let's get into it. Shane Van Gisbergen. Kyle Larson, you are not the greatest race car driver in the world. Shane Van Gisbergen is the greatest race car driver in the world right now. And I've been doing a lot of study on this man in the past couple of days. I don't see an argument.
I definitely looked up his racing reference page, and oh my god.
Yeah. Who is this man? Like,
I should have been watching supercars for a long time.
I had heard of him, but I had no clue he was like
that good.
He was who he was. Like,
Yeah.
Holy shit, this guy's good.
Yeah.
Like, no shame in losing to this dude. Like, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, either way, the whole back and forth recently about is this embarrassing?
We'll talk about it here.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
First win since first driver to win in their first start since Johnny Rutherford, like 60 years ago. And that was in a fucking Daytona dual race.
Oh, really? It wasn't even a point race?
It was back when they counted the duels for points.
Oh, okay.
But still, it was a Daytona dual race. And the first road ringer to win since Mark Donahue. Like, I think in the 70s. So,
yeah.
And now getting to the point of, I just want to throw those two stats out there. Is him winning embarrassing for the sport?
No.
And thank you. In my opinion, you got small dicks and a stick up your ass if you think that.
Yeah.
If you think, I mean, we, like I just said, we have Kyle Larson, and we think he's the greatest race car driver in the world. I've said it, and I've said it on this podcast. And I mean, we expect him to go and compete anywhere and everywhere and win. We think he can win the Indy 500. We think Kyle Larson can go to the moon and race a moon race and fucking win that shit, right? We got our heads up our asses if we think there's not another driver of that caliber that can come and do that to us. So, I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it.
I think ultimately, anyone coming in with that amount of experience in a car similar, on a track similar,
he had everything going for him,
and conditions similar too. Yeah, there's absolutely no shame. There's no shame at all in that. And later I found out that I didn't realize. So I was under the impression that like the pedals were backwards too. So at the very least, he didn't have to relearn how to do the pedals. But shifting with your other hand has got to be weird.
Yeah.
That's probably that might be the most impressive thing. Just the muscle memory of having to remember, I'm not lifting. I mean, obviously you're going to hit the door, but it's just like, you got to get used to that. And
you ever drop a fry in your car and
Yes.
you're like, you're trying to get it, and like you got to put your hand on the other side of the wheel, and it just feels fucking weird, and you feel like you're gonna crash. This dude's over here shifting, trying to win a fucking NASCAR race, doing that.
I have taken my right foot off the gas and switched it with my left foot to
Oh my
scratch
God.
my ankle before.
Like, I mean, you might as well pat your stomach and rub your head or whatever, vice versa. I mean, it does, like, you're not going to be able to do it. And
Yeah, it's really weird.
That's what he did the whole race.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Dude's an absolute freak. To go in there and run the 3 fastest laps of the race by a country mile or a country kilometer,
By an Outback mile.
an Outback mile.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say like at this point, because it's just I've thought about it so much, and every time I come back to it, I'm like, nah, dude's just a freak. Dude is just a freak. He comes in there.
He's very.
and the way he won it too. So compare
Yeah.
that with. So I was sitting there talking to my brother this afternoon, and I was like, let's just do the comparison. I say as a whole for Cup regulars, I would say Kyle Larson as a full ran the best race because he didn't wreck at the end like Reddick and Bell did. So I would say as a Cup regular, he probably ran the best race. He restarts after they shorten the race. He restarts what, 13th? Gets up to 4th. That's not bad. Here comes Big Dick Shane Van Gisbergen restarting 18th because they lost spots on the pit lane, which is expected. It's a part-time crew. And comes in, passes Kyle, and then proceeds to pass everybody else and survive a fucking overtime, which the restart line helped, obviously, and he was just flat better than everybody.
Look, we praised Dale Earnhardt for that run he made at Talladega, 18th to 1st. My man's over here just did it, and he's run one race. He's run one race, and he's already within 75 wins of Dale Earnhardt.
That is a hell of a way to put it. But yeah,
look here. Let's be clear. He's an incredible race car driver. I think he just showed the world that, or at least America that. And it's honestly a shame that we haven't realized that before. That his name has not been everyone's mouths more often. But Denny Hamlin, I think he said it best. We were racing in his environment more than he was racing in ours in this race. Between the wet weather, the street course, and just the car, really. I mean, he had the experience on that type of track. He had experience with this type of car. Largely, the next gen was largely based off of a V8 supercar. In fact, the very first test car for the next gen, I was like, that looks exactly like a V8 supercar. You had the single file restarts, which played into the respect factor and the drivers having to race the racetrack and, not, be able to maybe attack each other as much as they had to learn how to attack the track. It all played into his hands. But that's not to take anything away from him. He had the strategy go his way as well. But
well, I wouldn't say that. He had the strategy go against him.
Well, he had the strategy go against him, but he also had the strategy play in his hands because he did have the best tires at the end of the race, and he had time. But the charge he made through the field and how methodical that was, I mean, bro was playing chess and we were playing checkers. That's what that was. I mean, he had 8/10 on the fucking field. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I mean, he's on the wrong side of the car, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
But it got down to the end of it, and it was that last restart. I mean, the charge he made up through the field. One, everyone in turn 6 became a Shane Van Gisbergen fan. Yeah. I'd like to think largely because of me, because I was by far the one loudest about it.
Yes.
And then it gets down to it. I looked at you. I go, all right. It's this guy who's marrying a girl who has the same last name or same first name as his last name versus a 3-time V8 supercar champion. Place your bets, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. I just remember the only thing being worried about was not worried. I trusted Justin to race cleanly. I genuinely did. But yeah, that was like the only thing I could think at that point. I was like, dude, unless someone just goes in there and just destroys him for no reason, he's got this. Like,
dude, and here's the thing about this is this kind of goes back to was this embarrassing? It kind of this is going to be funny. Bear with me. It kind of goes back to the Talladega Nights thing, where Jean Girard gets out of the car and says, I came to America for you to beat me. or whatever the fuck he said. And it's stupid. It's a stupid comparison. But honestly, I mean, it will make our drivers better. They got all those SMT data. Yes. They're gonna study the shit out of this. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and you're only as good as, your worst driver, in a sense. I don't know if that really makes sense of what I'm saying here, but it's gonna. I think it's gonna make our drivers better at the end of the day, because sometimes it takes an anytime in life, it sometimes takes an outside opinion to figure out what the result should be or how you should move about a situation. And it took this freak of nature from fucking New Zealand to come in and kick our ass. And it's like, okay, all right, now we got some work to do.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Either way, it's like like how many guys in the field even had experience on a street course at all? McDowell, Allmendinger, Suarez. That's about it, as far as I know.
I can think of off the top of my head, really.
Yeah. So I mean, it was bound to happen, and a lot of guys still ran really good races. I mean, you could argue that Bell and Reddick threw it away.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if that's an argument. They threw it away. Yeah. Not to take anything away from Shane, he would have still been close, and he could have got it done. But yeah, they definitely threw away their best opportunities. Sure. But I don't remember where I was going with that. But anyway, it's not like our guys went in there and ran poorly. Realistically, no, they just got beat, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, there's no shame in it. He gets out of the car and he says he's got one more year in Oz, and then he might want to come over and race NASCAR. Obviously, heat of the moment. You just won your first ever NASCAR race that you've ever competed in. But I'd love to have him come over. I mean, he's a 410 sprint car winner.
Yep.
I mean, and one of the greatest V8 supercar drivers ever, and one of the other greatest V8 supercar drivers ever, Jamie Whincup, gave his blessing to, if he wants to come do NASCAR next year, he will let him out of his contract and let him go do it. So that'd be fucking cool. Also, Shane Van Gisbergen is in the All-Star race.
So that is true? He is in the All-Star race?
He won a fucking race.
Well, I don't know what the rules are anymore. Like, you have to be full time.
You win a race, you're in the All-Star race.
Okay.
Like, so
whether he runs next year or not full time, they better make that happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so he's gonna get some Oval experience. He's gonna run Wilkesboro, hopefully Wilkesboro next year.
Or Charlotte.
Yeah.
Wilkesboro is gonna be a points race next year.
That's true. It's the same car Suarez used to win at Sonoma. It's obviously a good car. Yeah, I don't know, man. Overall, it's just a good story. Like, you could try to spin it whatever way you want. It's just a cool story. And, I don't think, who was Chase Elliott said he's going to go back to Australia and say, God, we suck, or God, those guys suck. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he realizes, like, okay, these guys are pretty damn good. I'm better, but these guys are pretty damn good.
Well, and he's not dumb either. He knows that everyone there was green on these type of tracks. Yeah. Like, he's very humble about it.
At the end of the day, I think it'll bring eyes to NASCAR and it'll bring eyes to V8 supercars. I think it was best for both worlds. V8 supercars are fucking awesome too. If you've never watched them.
I need to be watching.
Yeah,
I need to be watching that.
And it'd be really cool if NASCAR could go over there and run some V8 supercars. NASCAR drivers could run some V8 supercars. But they can't. because they don't have super license.
Oh, you need a super license to run those?
Apparently, I watched the. I think okay. I watched the Instagram reel of Paul Morris. I did no research on this, so this could be wrong. But Paul Morris made it sound like they NASCAR drivers don't have a super license and they can't run V8 supercars. He was very bullish about it. He was very coy about it. I don't know if I'm using those words in the right way. But yeah. So can we fix that, please? Because I'd like to see this happen.
Good luck getting the FIA to budge on anything ever.
Yeah, right. And it kind of I think it sends a message like to road ringers that like, oh shit, I could come in there and win. You probably can't, but it's gonna bring more people to the
Yeah, I definitely like to think there's a bunch of guys who are like
there's a carrot out there now. You know, it was, okay, Kimi Räikkönen ran 18th. Jenson Button, gotta give a call to him. He ran a great race too. I think he got caught by strategy, but he was very fast, which is really cool to see because I think that's a more accurate comparison.
Well, it wasn't strategy. He spun out entering the pits.
Oh, that's right. He did. Yeah. I think that's a more apt comparison to Kimi Räikkönen than Shane Van Gisbergen is. And I think Jensen ultimately did a better job than Kimi did. Kamui Kobayashi. That's where I was going. Why even show up, man?
I mean, at this point, you might as well try it.
Yeah. Kamui's a hell of a driver too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like the Dodge Ram of like sports car racing.
I'll take your word for it. I don't follow enough sports car.
You know the meme where it's like the Dodge Ram behind you is just on your ass, bright light, brights on. Yeah, it's Kamui Kobayashi.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like him going to Indy makes it less likely that anything good will happen for him, just because the way they run there. Now,
if he has single file restarts,
we had single file restarts. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I do want to know your Project 91 wish list, but we have a question about that later, so we'll get into that. Okay. Trackhouse Racing, obviously Project 91. What Shane Van Gisbergen was running for. 75 years in NASCAR history. Trackhouse has created two of the most memorable moments ever in the sport. Just 10 months.
Yeah.
And also it's produced 3 first-time winners from 3 different countries.
That's really cool.
God damn. And then this thing just fell down. I mean, the Hail Melon and then Shane Van Gisbergen. I mean, Justin Marks is changing NASCAR, and I don't know when Trackhouse was announced back in 2020, I guess at the end of 2020. I thought, honestly, I kind of thought it might be one of those teams that gets announced and then would never cease the track.
You did.
Boy,
I assume
fucking wrong.
Yeah, no, I assumed they would at least see the track. I didn't think they'd do anything, but
no, I didn't think they'd do anything at all. I thought Daniel Suarez's career was dead in the water, but he claimed it to be his best opportunity ever, and it's clearly proven that, and it's proven that for Ross Chastain. And I don't know if it's the best opportunity ever for Shane Van Gisbergen. He seems like he's doing pretty good over there in Australia, but it was a hell of an opportunity for him. Yeah. And just Justin Marks in general. There's nothing you could say about him that hadn't been said already. And, everyone thinks the world of him, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, absolute visionary. I mean, we haven't seen this in Cup maybe ever.
Yeah.
And to put the plan in action so quickly, because I mean, you remember that first year he was very vocal about it's not about the result, it's about the process.
Yeah.
And by the next year, you could already see the fruit of that labor.
2.5 years ago, they hadn't even hit the track yet.
Yeah.
And here we are, and they've revolutionized the sport.
Yeah. I mean, when they announced Project 91, I kind of thought, okay, that's cool. I mean, I won't ever do anything, but that's cool. And yeah, here we are. I mean, he got the best driver for this race. Like,
yeah,
100%. I guess he could have
9,000 IQ.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he could have gotten
right
one or two other supercar drivers to maybe do it, according to Shane and according to Austin Cindric.
10, apparently.
Yeah, he said 10, and then Cindric added McLaughlin. So I guess we'll say there were 12 guys he could have gotten for it, in theory. But yeah, clearly made a great call there. I don't think anybody outside those maybe 10 guys does this. I'm still kind of surprised he did it. Just because, I mean, think about it. Think about it. They've run, 3 races with that car? 4?
Yeah, 3.
3? That's insane. Really, realistically, that's crazy. No matter who you have behind the wheel, realistically, like that's still just crazy to be able to actually have enough good communication between
put it
driver
in perspective.
and crew.
Remember how shocked we were when AJ Allmendinger won that Cup race at Indianapolis for Colleague?
Yeah, that's true. But AJ's been around the Cup Series a lot longer.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's been around the Cup Series forever. That team was established a little bit more, and it took an absolute shit show of a race for him to get in that position to win. And then you compare that to this, and it should put it in perspective for people how incredible this is from a team aspect as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
Shane Van Gisbergen, welcome to the playoffs. No, I mean, I bet a lot of guys breathe a big sigh of relief because I think a lot of people thought maybe a surprise winner would come out of here, and I mean, it did.
It did.
Just no one that affects the playoffs, obviously. Yeah.
I just remember sitting there thinking for a little while when Chase Elliott was putting up a fight, I'm like, Chase, you should let him go. You're not going to win the race.
Yeah. I mean, Justin Haley was looking real good there for a minute.
Yeah.
But
I'll just never forget trying to figure out how the gap would be and watching them come off of turn 12 and realizing that Shane Van Gisbergen was going to pass him. It's like, I was sitting there. I was like, I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to jinx him. Yeah.
But like, I was like, Shane Van Gisbergen is going to win this fucking race.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
When he got by, I think it was Kyle Busch, and he closed that gap in like 3 corners. It was like, it was on at that point. I'm like, oh my God, this is actually happening.
Yeah. This is, yeah. 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 I think that's all I had on the whole SVG.
Yep.
Say it with me. Shane Van Gisbergen.
Yeah. It's not that hard.
Not that hard.
I mean, I kind of screwed it up all Sunday, but my brain sees that name and thinks there's an extra in there for some reason. Because there is, in German or Austrian, there's Giesenbergen I've seen. So that's what my brain saw. But yeah, I've got it now. I've got it down pat now.
Okay.
Now you know.
Thank you. Turn 6 is where we were sitting. Sponsorship works for sure. We know that. Noah Gragson wrecked a lot in front of us. And we definitely went and got Baconators after the race. So that's what I'm going to take from that.
Yeah. Noah got him a hat trick in turn 3.
He did.
Or 6,
I was ready to throw my hat. I was going to do it.
In his defense, the first one was definitely not his fault. The other 2 absolutely were. I can't believe he got stuck twice. That was hysterical.
Yeah.
I was honestly surprised everyone got, or at how many guys got stuck there. I thought that was interesting. But See, the problem is I was surprised when Kyle Busch got stuck just because the Porta-John was right there, and I didn't realize how far he'd gone into the tire barrier.
Oh yeah, yeah. He put that son of a bitch windshield deep.
Yeah, which that slow-mo shot is probably the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's fantastic. The water, when Bell wrecked in turn 1, we all got splashed with that water. That was hilarious.
No, I want Bell's Truex.
Oh, Truex.
Yeah.
Okay, whichever.
It yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I love that the entire crowd cheered when Truex wrecked in turn 1 and we got splashed with water. I was cheering because Truex wrecked because he took out Harvick because Martin Truex is a world-class road racer, not dude, that pissed me off. That pissed me off to no end. Like, dude, come on. You're one of the best road racers in the field. Why are you pulling something so stupid? He drove like a fucking jackass the entire race. And they wrecked. And for some reason, we were excited that we got even wetter than we already were. But
we were already soaked, so it didn't matter at that point.
I guess, yeah. But yeah, back to turn 6. That was obviously the most treacherous part of the racetrack. And it kept the guys honest, not only in the dry, and not only in the wet, but in the dry as well. And that's cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, we should have kind of known it was going to be like that, just because there's a big transition there.
Big bump.
There's a big bump. Yeah, the guys.
Not even a bump; it's a dip.
Yeah. Guys like Shane Van Gisbergen, Kyle Larson, and like Bell and Reddick, they got through there a lot cleaner than a lot of guys. A lot of guys were just ramping off. Yeah, a lot of guys were just ramping off that, not ramping off of it, but ramping, I guess, into it, and just slamming the car down. Like, I can't imagine that they can use those diffusers again. I don't know that for a fact, but just seemed like it. They were just.
Reminds me of the Roval in 2018 when people talked about. A guy you worked with used to work at Gibbs. He said they just trashed all them chassis because they were just so destroyed.
Yeah, so
I would imagine that's what the underbodies were.
I would imagine, but yeah, with the Roval thing, he said that, and I had remembered that like Kyle Busch had destroyed his car or whatever, and I was like, oh yeah, a few of you guys wrecked. He goes, no, the ones that finished fine, we had to junk those. I was like, oh shit.
yeah. Which. You don't want to see destroyed race cars, but if it means the track is just challenging and just an overall challenging in all aspects, from driver to car to team, that's what you want to see. And yeah, turn 6 was the hot spot for sure.
Mike Bagley had a busy day.
Yeah, he did. That was.
I would imagine Moody did too, but I know for sure Mike Bagley did.
Yeah. And largely because of turn 6, the race ended up getting shortened. One, the start time. Obviously, we were delayed because of rain, but that we started only about 15 or 20 minutes after the original start time was supposed to be before they moved it up on Saturday.
Yeah.
So that's bad. And then they called it, at the time I was like, they called it early enough to where I felt like this was a good call. It was pretty clear that we weren't going to get the whole race in because of darkness. But obviously, if you've listened to any other podcast or any other NASCAR show, they did kind of screw a bunch of guys because you got to give it enough time to let strategy play out. That's true, but also Kyle Busch, Randall Burnett, they're big brains, and they did the math themselves. Like, it's up to you to account for every variable. And some guys did, and some guys didn't. And Christopher Bell claims he got fucked by NASCAR, and I don't agree. He fucked himself. Everybody that was.
So
I mean, yeah. Look, you look at it. You gotta look at it like this. Yeah, you want to give the teams enough time to play out their strategy how they want to play it out, given the amount of laps that it's going to be. But it was pretty clear early on in that race, if you would have been paying attention, which we weren't, we were having a good time. But, if you're a crew member or a crew chief, you should kind of pay attention. When's sunset? This race is an hour and however long in, we've done 30 laps. And we got that amount of time till sunset. Maybe we should start planning for this race to get shortened. And they didn't. And they lost. And they didn't have to lose either. Because the guy who won was on their strategy too. But Christopher Bell blew his head off his shoulders and wrecked. So, I mean, I don't feel bad for the guy. Or anybody that feels like they were screwed by that strategy.
I don't feel bad either because
it's beginning of the day. Look at your phone. You know what time sunset is.
We definitely, obviously we saw the 91 go through. We saw the 5 get most of the way through. The only issue I have is that NASCAR has rarely been up on this from the beginning. They usually wait till it's dark and then go, okay, we got 5 laps to go.
Yeah.
So I think the only issue is you didn't know how long they were actually going to go. And yes, and I feel like the problem I have is if you are the leader and you're on your strategy, switching to that strategy feels in the moment like it could be a problem. Guys like Kyle Busch, who are running dead ass fucking last, had nothing to lose by switching to a new strategy. And Chase Elliott and Justin Haley, they were all running way in the back. They had literally nothing to lose by switching strategies, and it definitely feels like if you're the leader, it's hard to make that strategy change before you hear that they've shortened the race. And that was a significant shortage, which we ended up having a little bit of wiggle room in. So you didn't know at that point if we were going to, in theory, we could have probably run scheduled 80, 82 something laps. Maybe it would have been tight, but so it was right on that cusp of, could we even make it here? When are we actually going to end this race?
Yeah. I don't know. I think ultimately the right call. I heard it on DVC. They said they should have said at the beginning of the race, because, without cautions, judging lap time and the lap times being slower because of the rain, that we're probably not going to get this whole race in. So they should have said at the beginning, look, 100 laps or 820 or whatever comes first. That would have been the right call. But at the end of the day, I think this is kind of getting blown out of proportion at how big a deal it was. I don't think, I don't know, man. It kind of goes to, it goes to when it's going to rain. When we have a possible, rainstorm coming, you don't know when the race is going to end. And so you kind of have to judge your strategy. You at least have some sort of idea of when the race is going to end. It's either going to be 100 laps or, 75 or sunset. Play to that. So I don't know. It just seems like there was an oversight, and NASCAR is getting a lot more flack than I feel like they deserve for it.
Yeah, I definitely think NASCAR made a much better call than they have in the past when we've had this problem. Obviously, New Hampshire is the big one where they just kind of waited around and told everyone 10 to go, which so this was definitely a better call than that for sure.
The green white checkered was fucking dumb.
Yeah, I didn't understand how you can shorten a race, and it was dark at that point.
Yeah.
I didn't understand how you could shorten a race and then wait till it gets dark, or it gets dark. Not like we could see,
Yeah.
but it was
I mean,
it was on the ragged edge. Like we would have not done more than that one. I don't think.
Yeah. Which, now that I think about it, we did say this in the moment too. We did have a few extra minutes that we didn't think we were gonna have.
Yeah.
With before sunset, technically, and it did get a little bit lighter at the end. The sun peeked through as it was setting. I don't know. Maybe I take that back. It wasn't. It was a interesting decision to run a green white checkered, but I guess in theory it wasn't as dumb as maybe I thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, it turned out we had enough time. It was just
it was fine.
We would have definitely not been able to do any more than that one.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, I thought it was a huge success. I mean, it went from this is going to be the greatest weekend ever to this is an absolute disaster. And then the fact that a okay race would not have saved this event. But this event was saved because we had an absolute fantastic race overall in every way, shape, and form. This was a fantastic race. And I think it saved the fate of this race, or at least gave it a more of a fighting chance to come back on the schedule.
Yeah. No, I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
And I would love an opportunity for this to go without it being a mess.
Yeah, exactly. And also you can't really give it too much flack because Daytona and Road America can't hold a candle to this. Daytona, I mean, it rains all the time there. So, I mean, and people want to talk about Chicago not wanting us. Now, they don't want us in general, allegedly. I don't know. I'm not getting too much into the politics of it because I'm just not smart enough, really. But Daytona also doesn't want us on 4th of July weekend because it's more beneficial for them to not have it on 4th of July weekend. And then Road America this is light years better of a race than Road America was or ever has been. So, middle finger to them.
Road America is a great racetrack. I'm not convinced.
Road America's mid.
It's not. It's a great racetrack. It's just not a great Cup racetrack.
It's mid.
Okay, I mean you can be.
It's
wrong.
mid for Cup. You're right.
It's not a great. It's not a great Cup racetrack. Caution laps just take way too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's unfortunate that it didn't work for Cup, but this did really well.
It did. It worked really well, and everyone called me an idiot and said I was wrong, and said we're dumb for going here, and said that Road America was better. And that the fan turnout was going to be better, the race was going to be better, everything was going to be better, and it just simply was fucking not. The fan turnout was fantastic. Even after the monsoon, I was shocked at how many fucking people were there after that. There was just as many people, maybe not quite just as many, but it seemed like very close number of people that there were Saturday. And there was a fuck ton of people there. There's just a fuck ton of people there the entire weekend. And so, I mean, every way, shape, or form, this was the right decision to come here.
Yeah. I mean,
and
you did.
What I've been
we
saying.
Did not think the race was going to be very good. That was a surprise.
Yeah, but I think that, now looking back on it, I think that was also an oversight on our part. Just because we didn't know the layout of the track, like actually on the ground level. And that obviously helped a lot. So I think that was a bit of an oversight on our part. But like I've been saying all along, give it a chance. Like, it was a street race. We've never done it before. There's no reason why we shouldn't at least try it. I know, Seth, we have done it before because the beach course was technically a street course. We haven't done it in a long time and on a full road course and whatever technicalities you want to put on it. there was no reason why we shouldn't at least try it. And here we go. We tried it, and it was a fucking success. Just shut the hell up. I will disappear after this podcast.
Yeah, I've been waiting.
I wanted to come. Yeah, I wanted to. Yeah, we talked last week about how I was just gonna, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark, out of here once the race was over. But I wanted to come here and share my opinion and get that one last jab at Road America.
Yeah, your hate boner for Road America is just obnoxious.
Well, I mean, dude, somebody's got to counteract all the fucking unwarranted love for that place. For
what do you mean?
Cars.
During the whole race, both years, everyone just bitched about it. So
all I heard was how great it was.
I liked it. I don't really
Road America
know anyone else.
Road America was you didn't go to Road America and get that big event feel. You got okay, cool. The fan turnout was great.
How do you know you didn't go?
It just seemed like people who watched this race at home, they felt like it was a big event. Road America never felt like a big event. It always kind of felt a little bit out of place on the Cup schedule for me. I mean, it was maybe. I
don't know if it felt for me. I don't think it felt out of place. I just think it was just a normal race. It just wasn't special, which is fine.
Yeah,
that doesn't
and now
bother
we have
me.
something special. No, but now we have something special. This could be a crown jewel event if you really think about it. The street race, wherever it is, because I mean, just the amount of people you're in front of and the market you're in front of, you're not going to get that at Road America. I'm sorry.
Well, and the amount of drivers it can bring in now too.
Exactly.
After they've seen it, so
yeah. So. I have a quote here from the mayor of Chicago. He said, "We are grateful despite the extreme weather that NASCAR was able to deliver with very minimum disruption. Like everything that I inherited, I will assess it and grade it in an open process." Those are a lot of big words, but
that doesn't say anything.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I think the mayor was hell-bent against it, and I think maybe there's a chance that he comes around.
I think the likelihood is significantly higher now.
Yes.
Significantly from what felt like zero. So I don't know where we're at with it. Yeah.
I think, one, the community rallied behind it. Everyone had a great time with it. That was in Chicago. And also, it's very, like I said before, it's very important for NASCAR to build a fan base in a market like this before they take the race away. And so I think it's a great, not gimmick for Chicago, but a great event for the city. But it's not necessary. It's not necessary, I guess, for the city. But for NASCAR, it's very necessary that we stay here at least a couple years. But it is important that wherever we take the street race, that we are wanted, and that NASCAR, if NASCAR is going to come spend all this money, and bring people from all over the country and really the world to your city, that maybe you should want us back. Just saying.
Yep.
And then Steve O'Donnell said, "We could take the Cup Series anywhere we want. The race we put on today would sell and be embraced globally."
I think that's true.
That is 100% true. I'll ask this question. Where do you think we should go next?
I say we swing for the fences and go for New York.
Yeah, I think that, or we go somewhere overseas like London, or like even like Tokyo. That'd be fucking cool.
Yeah,
that would be cool. That'd be really fucking cool.
It would be.
And Japan. I mean, we saw the turnout we had back in the late '90s with Japan. I think, yeah, it's my answer. Tokyo.
Okay.
I think the end goal is to have cities envy Chicago and what they have right now. So
Yeah.
hopefully that'll come from it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to see what their plan, because I mean, clearly they want to do overseas at some point. Really, just getting the logistics involved or getting the logistics figured out for that is the only hurdle. And I mean, I think as soon as they get it figured out and get a plan in place, they'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
No, not really.
Yeah. I just want to say how fucking cool it was to go to Chicago. Obviously, I've lived there all my life. Not even true. I lived there for a very brief period of time when I was younger. Lived outside of Chicago, but spent a lot of time in the actual city. And it's a city I fell in love with when I was living there and living up there in that area. And I went to Chicagoland once for qualifying, and that was cool. But to have a race in downtown Chicago, it was just the coolest thing in the world. Going back there and being like, oh yeah, I remember walking here as a kid. I remember this when I was younger, getting to do all the things in downtown Chicago, and then going back to Wheaton, Illinois, where I used to live. And it was very personal for me when they started talking about the street race. I don't know. It was very, like I said, it just very personal, very sentimental to me that we race in this city, and getting to go there and experience it, the emotional roller coaster that it was, the fact that we saw the race that we saw, it just meant the world to me, at least. I don't know, anybody can say whatever else they want. It meant the world to me to see that happen, and I'm just glad that I got to do it.
Yeah, I'd only been to Chicago once, and it was when I was like 7. So, it was cool to see it again as an adult, and it actually was a really cool city. I'd never been much for cities just in general. They're all, my perspective of it was that they're all obnoxious and everyone there is annoying, and that wasn't the case at all. And I genuinely enjoyed it. And if we run this again next year, I'll definitely be wanting to go.
Cool. That being said, go fuck yourself. Oh, wait, hold on. Sundress dumbass.
We're not done.
God, dude, I forget how this damn show works every week.
I don't know how. We're almost at 100.
We are.
Which is kind of a technicality, because don't you count the Q&A separate as a different episode?
Yeah.
It's not really.
Okay.
It's like a 0.5. Oh, well.
Anyway, you picked Chase Elliott, and I picked Ty Gibbs. And that was the thing that ticked me off most about them shortening the race, is it played right into the hands of Chase Elliott and really gypped me out of winning the picks. I had this shit in the bag. Chuck wrecked in fucking practice. He wrecked in the race. And the son of a bitch in his damn fucking spy versus spy looking ass car ends up beating Ty Gibbs, who drove a very respectable race.
I'll take it.
I'm pissed. I don't even know where we're going next week.
Going to Atlanta.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Dumbass.
I'm going to be there. Shit.
Yeah.
Who you picking for Atlanta?
I'm going to go with Daniel Suarez completing the hat trick for Trackhouse. He needs to get something going. He is the only Trackhouse driver that hasn't won this year. Well, okay, Kimmy didn't win, but we're not going to count. We're going to ignore that for now. Yeah, I'm going to go with Daniel.
I'm gonna go with. Damn. I'm gonna go with Justin Haley.
Justin Haley. Okay.
Yeah. I like Justin Haley for this.
Okay.
Cool. Who's your sundress? Who's your dumbass?
Sundress is obviously Shane Van Gisbergen. Dumbass is Noah Hat Trick Gregson.
Yeah. My sundress is. Yeah, I mean it's hard not to give it to Shane Van Gisbergen. So yeah, I'll just you can just have that too. My dumbass, man. Noah's it's an easy one. But I'm gonna go with William Byron because he made us look the dumbest in this whole situation. He fucking wrecked and caused that big wreck that blocked most of the track, and then Kevin Harvick with his 1,000 IQ move blocked the track fully, and it was all William Byron's fault. Him and Dillon can have co-dumbassmanship this week because Austin Dillon, they said he was the most improved road racer in NASCAR, and the next turn he went in there and wrecked himself. So
I feel like honestly, those two are less deserving of dumbass than Tyler Reddick and Christopher Bell because they threw away race-winning cars.
So did Austin Dillon.
No, he didn't.
And that, I mean, he was going for the race win.
It wasn't going to happen.
I don't know, man. He was getting there, and then he didn't.
Look, I choose to not believe that Austin Dillon has ever won a race.
Martin Truex Jr. can also have part of it too.
Bubba Wallace kind of destroyed Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for like nothing there. Like that was really bad. Like he completely missed the corner.
So it's settled. William Byron, dumbass of the week. Right. That's been the show. As I said before, go fuck yourself.
He's been Buddy Pulley. I've been Seth Dolby.
He's been dumbass.
He's been Buddy Pulley. He's going to Thanos disappear here in a moment. And we'll never see him again. Maybe.
Except in the Q&A.
Except in the Q&A. And next week. And the week after that.